Nigeria. Good morning, 042, and a beautiful day to everyone watching today. You're tuned into Sunrise on ANEKE TV, where every sunrise begins with delightfulness and joy, and bringing you today's daily dose of brightness. I am Deborah Wakaba, coming to you live from our studio here in Vibrant Enugu.
And good morning to you, our global audience. I'm Uche Osai. Wherever you are, at your desk, in transit, or even making breakfast, thank you for letting us into your space this beautiful morning. We're here to refresh, inform, and motivate.
Yes, it's Wednesday, 7th January 2026, and of course we've got a power-packed morning for you today here on Sunrise on ANEKE TV, where we've got our weather reports, we've got that special sunrise vibe for us to own our day.
So, grab a cup of coffee or tea, relax, enjoy the cruise, because the sunrise is set sail.
Yes, and after that, we'll be starting things off with our quote of the day. With was that thoughtful, was that inspiring, was that offer insight in whatever we do to help us stay well driven, stay focused, and be motivated.
Then, it's straight into the day's top headlines. All the key news updates you need to remain informed will be shared, hot and tasty.
Yes, then we'll be giving you our weather reports covering major cities across the southeast and beyond, so you'd know what to expect before you step out, or if you've stepped out already, it is to keep you throughout the rest of the day.
Then we'll wrap things up by bringing the man of many parts, the sports oracle and the commissioner of enjoyment, and we'll wrap things up with the Nigerian stock market update.
All right, now let's move over to our morning show inspiration segment. Today it is coming from Martin Luther King Jr. and his quote, he said, "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step." I'm going to take that quote again, coming from Martin Luther King Jr. that says, "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step." Now what this quote is saying is that we do not have to figure everything out before we make that step, or we don't have to figure everything out before we begin what we are supposed to do. And also this quote is actually emphasizing on progress, that progress starts by taking one small courageous step forward. Just like they say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And also this quote from Martin Luther King Jr. is also still saying that we should trust that clarity and direction will come as you move ahead. So whenever we're through whatever we're going forward, that we shouldn't be afraid to take a bold step, a courageous step. So we shouldn't care about what is ahead, but instead we should move forward, and at the end of the day we would succeed.
Yeah, we'll thank Martin Luther King first of all for being this intentional, coming out with this very quote to motivate us into action. And he is telling us that you don't have to see the whole staircase, you just have to start by taking that first step. Let's just bring it home literally. When you want to climb stairs, you don't get to see the final or the middle, you just start by taking a step at once. And Martin Luther King, being who he is, this morning is telling us and all of us that poverty can only be stepped away from by taking that act of blind faith in wanting to move away. Just take that first step. It's only that first step that could take you away from generational poverty. Wanting to get a perfect plan doesn't cut it. You just start by moving with what you have on ground. It could be starting a business as an entrepreneur. Start from the corner of your house. It could be a table. You don't need to wait till you get a shop. Just start that first step. It could be beginning to hawk what you have at hand. It starts with just first step. So you want to build a house. Remember, building a house starts with having the plan. When you have the land, then get the sand, get the needed material. It's all about taking that first step. It's all about taking a professional course. Just the intent is good, but make that first move. That in itself is what's going to change the situation. So is 2026. We're in the first month of a 12-month calendar. Where are you at the moment? Just take a step, a blind step of faith. That's what Martin Luther King is telling us, that it all starts with a step. And at the end of the day, when it's 365 days, completely a year, you'll be happy that you made that first move. You took that first step. That blind faith in believing in your ability, starting from where you are, will definitely ensure and lead you into success. The greatest fear is to be met as when we take stock after 365 days, and you're still at that very spot. So, like Martin Luther King is telling us, you don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take that first step. And we are telling you here this morning on ANEKE TV on Sunrise, just take that first step.
All right, thank you very much for that. And while you're taking that bold step, please keep in mind that each new sunrise is a platform for us to grow. It's an opportunity where we try something new or simply be more present in whatever we do. And let us know what this quote means to you. You can drop your thoughts on our social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, or at ANEKE TV, or call our phone number 070-3043-7110. And up next is our weather report.
Yes, we'll take a look at the weather report across major cities in the southeast today.
And we'll be starting off with Oka. Good morning, Oka. You wake up to mostly cloudy skies with nice warm temperatures as you step out. Through the day, expect a mix of clouds and sunshine with highs around the low 30 degrees Celsius, which is comfy and dry with no big rain surprises.
And good morning, Coal City. This morning, Enugu kicks off with a touch of cloudy but brightens up as the sun climbs. By mid-morning, partly sunny vibes with temperatures rising towards the mid-30 degrees Celsius. Great weather if you're heading out for that early errand or coffee.
In Abakaliki is shaping up with passing clouds turning into sunny spells as the day heats up. Temperatures may flirt with the mid-30 degrees Celsius, so light clothing is your best friend today, but keep your water bottle close.
Good morning, Imo State, and welcome to that beautiful city of Owerri. This morning, we expect few showers, but don't let that dampen your mood. It clears into mostly sunny or warm weather by midday. Perfect mix of rain, washed air, and sunshine.
And in Umahia, it's cloudy early with sunshine peeking through later on. You will enjoy warm temperatures in the low 30 degrees Celsius, which is ideal for outdoor plans or lunch with friends.
So, wherever you are in Southeast today, stay safe, stay clear, dress light, but do remember, either rain or shine, we've got you covered. And this is your weather report here on Sunrise on ANEKE TV. We'll go on a short break and we'll return with more news updates.
Watching Sunrise on ANEKE TV. Now let's take a look at the papers today, starting from The Nation, Punch, Vanguard, and The Guardian newspaper.
And joining us this morning, as always, is Mr. Res Arum, our in-house analyst, to give flesh to these whole news stories. And with us again is Mr. Good Hope, the man of many parts. It's good to have you this morning, Mr. Res.
Well, thank you for having me once again. We're here to dissect what the newspapers say in Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now moving over to the Nation paper, and the headline there says, students rally support for tax laws, shelf protest plan. And in the Punch paper, the major headline there says, power drain electricity subsidy nails 2 trillion naira yearly. And on the Vanguard paper, the major headline says, terrorists on rampage in Kwaras, Kastina, Kaduna, many abducted. And still on the Vanguard headline, Rivers, you can't cry foul now to Raki, PDP blast APC over Wike. And lastly, in the Guardian headline says, Nigerians fuel, crude importation concerns defies price war. And we're starting today with our paper coming from the Vanguard. And the headline that says, Rivers, you can't cry foul now to Raki's PDP blast APC over Wike. The political tension in Rivers State has taken a sharper tone as senior PDP figure Turaki fires back at the APC, insisting the ruling party has no moral right to complain about the ongoing crisis. According to him, the APC benefited from earlier political maneuvers involving former Rivers Governor Yusuf Wike and therefore cannot cry foul now that the situation has escalated.
Well, looking at this news this morning, the Vanguard newspaper, I sort of, started smiling. One may want to, look at the APC that is now beginning to, look at the activities of Yesun Wike with some pinch of salt and say that the lion you embolden is now roaring louder. And it's as if one may want to say that, yes, at the end of the day, what goes around comes around. The FCT minister Yesun Wike, when he was at his element and with the PDP, and getting the brunt of it, the APC seems to be cheering him on. Then today, it seems that the battle line is getting set to be drawn, with the feelers coming out from the news, where we'll see that all is no longer rosy with his godson to speak to the governor of Rivers State, Governor Sim Fubara, and the national publicity, the national secretary of the APC, leading to APC allowing Yosumike the Fubara to join his fold, being supported by the governors of APC, seems to have alarmed Wike, the FCT minister, who with his body language seemed not to be consulted before those moves were made, and has come up publicly to lampoon the national secretary of the APC and the APC, and saying that his move to the APC doesn't grant him automatic tickets to contest for the seat of the governor of Rivers State, Mr. Res. Now this morning is the APC that is crying, and the PDP are now advising the APC. How and what's your take on this issue?
Well, it is not easy to give a monkey water, a cup of water. It's about taking back the cup from the monkey. You see, the APC sort of created Wike in the way Wike is presently, trying to defy everything. Wike is still a member of a faction of PDP, yet Wike wants to control the APC as well. He has not moved over to APC. He has not resigned his membership of PDP. Yet, he is still trying to influence the activities of APC. The fact that a sitting governor, no matter the way he did, he helped him to come on board as a governor. A sitting governor moved to the APC. He has not moved, has moved to APC. Well, he was in slumber. He didn't know when the move was made. Some of the governors of APC, in fact, the primary situation was that Wike wanted to install a governor in another state. He wanted to put somebody who had been in PDP and destroyed PDP to become the APC candidate of a state, APC candidate of a state. And the governor of the state is a very influential governor in Nigeria. And the governor decided that it will not happen that way. So what the governor had to fight back, and incidentally has a commanding influence on most of the governors of APC in Nigeria. So what he did was to broker a deal between Fubara and the president. And Fubara now went into APC and became #1. Of course, the governor of a state is the head of the political party where he belongs. So in APC, Fubara was or remains #1. Then when Wike got wind of it, he was running helter-skelter. He went back to River State and was, touring the localities, speaking to people, and there and then he started, coming out, against the secretary of course, the secretary of APC had to intervene and say, you are not in our party to determine what happens. You are saying that the governor, the #1 citizen who belongs to our party, will not be given a ticket. How can you in PDP determine who will be given a ticket in APC? So these are the kind of things that brought about a very serious imbroglio. In fact, it was almost snowballing into, if they had seen face to face, it would have snowballed into a shouting match. But on the faces of newspaper, it's been trading of words between Wike and the APC secretary from the southwest. So Turaki on his own now began to see that the monster, or what he alluded as monster created by the APC, is beginning to haunt them. That is, it was an allusion anyway. And he said, after all, you had Wike doing all the best for you, destroying our party, doing a whole lot of things in our party. And today, he has, even from our party, coming into your own party to destroy it as well. So, you see, karma has played a role. So, Turaki, who is the chairman of one of the other faction, because Wike still said he belongs to one of the factions of PDP. So, and PDP is in court to determine which one is the authentic PDP. So from there, Turaki now had to talk to APC. It is what you created. Your creation of APC has turned out to become a problem to APC. Even the national chairman of APC have all, intervened in the way Wike was having problems broadcasting about an agreement, but these agreements were just made verbal agreements. And of course, the governor of River State, Fubara himself, was in PDP then. So now he's in APC. I don't think such an agreement will prevail on him, because after all, what APC wants is to have all the governors. They have about 20-something governors now, going to 30. They have 20-something governors going to 30. So they have many of the governors in the opposition parties have all cross-carpeted into APC. So what is it they want? So they will not support Wike. In fact, nobody in APC has shown enormous support except the zonal chairman south-south of APC, who also lent his voice supporting Wike and all that, and which the national secretary warned him that some powers will be invoked by the National Executive Council of APC if he doesn't take his time. That he is still under the #1 person in APC in the state who is the governor. So for him to begin to refer to their governor, to a governor, as the so-called governor, because that was what that vice chairman used. That it is untenable. It is not taken by anybody. You should withdraw forthwith, referring to him as that, because it is not a very good reference. You don't refer to a governor as the so-called governor. How can you say that? A governor elected by the people, you call him the so-called governor. Who are you? Because you are the vice chairman. And the vice chairman is just a spare tire. It doesn't have any significant role in anything. Vice everywhere. So that is the situation. Except you want us to go.
No, but the question I want to ask in all this, it seems that the peace that was brokered by Mr. President, leading to the suspension of democracy in Rivers State for 6 months, and then thereby bringing about the peace, the fragile peace that was enjoyed about a few months, seems not to be so solid after all.
When you talk about peace brokered at that time was just peace to ensure that there wouldn't be anarchy sort of in a situation because of the followers of Fubara. And then we are talking about a Fubara that was in PDP. So the peace was to keep him in office, because they were already trying to do things that are not things that are not done to ensure that he's booted out of office, even as a governor. The House of Assembly, at that time, the lawyer to Wike mass entered APC. When Fubara went to court and said they should lose their seats, they now went to court and said they have not moved. And the Supreme Court ruled they have not moved. Fine. And now that it's quite funny, the situation in Rivers. So the peace that was brokered by the president was peace because the president needed people to support him for a re-election. Now he has. The problem in Rivers State is for him to have Rivers State. And he has gotten Rivers State. The governor has moved over to APC and is loyal to him and is supporting him and is willing to support him for a re-election bid. So, in fact, Wike's mission is ended almost. If one sees it from a perspective that even the president should know that the mission of Wike, what he asked Wike to do, he has done. Cure ED, what erat demonstrandum. So Wike can even be dispensed with, since he's not even in APC, except he wants to come into APC. So the peace was fragile at that time.
Is he officially not in APC?
But the peace was not signed. It was not cast on stone. These agreements were in principle. They were in principle, and things have changed. And because due to the dynamic changes that has happened between the period and now, it cannot be binding on anybody, especially the governor. How can you say that the governor doesn't? There's no constitution. You say it's a breach of constitutional right. He has the constitutional right to run for election. Given 2 times, they run and win the election or rule given two times by the Constitution. So how can somebody just say with a word of mouth? So with a word of mouth, somebody can now, suspend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So it's a constitutional right by Fubara, and it is fundamental rights too. So it is a breach of fundamental rights for anybody to even say so. And for you to make such an agreement, the agreement, if it goes to court, it will not be binding because it negates all principles of fundamental rights.
All right. I know this may be quite early, and you've rightly observed that, yes, the president has secured Rivers State by the virtue of the fact that the sitting governor has moved to APC. But I want to ask, do you see a situation where, the governor is of the APC, the FCT minister was for Mr. President as well, and though, like I did say, maybe too early, but do you see the FCT minister in any way working against the interests of Mr. President if he endorses Fubara?
If he does, he'll be ruined. You know that when you are in government, you do all manner of things. There's been several allegations and all that. Can't you see what is happening to those who have decided not to support Mr. President? Can't you see that the anti-graft war is centered on such persons presently? It's not as
who cannot link both situations.
No, but you will see it when it happens. So Wike should be very, very careful. And he's been fighting at all fronts. He's been fighting at all fronts. Like I told you, that the governor brokered that peace and brought Fubara in. He's fighting that same governor. And that same governor is a very influential governor in Nigeria. I do not want to name the governor. I do not want to call names. So Wike has been fighting everywhere. A lot of people tend to detest some of his activities. You know, he's quite a very wonderful man, very loquacious. He talks, he tells you everything. If you want to exchange words with him, he's always ready. Can't you see how many times he talks to the media about one person or the other who are fighting him or who are saying that the things he's doing is not good? So it will not be a good idea. It will not be a good idea, especially when the president sees that Wike has done the job he wanted him to do. You see, a job done, it cannot be undone. More so when you've attracted enemies as a result of doing that job.
Okay, but before I let you off on this very issue, I know they say everything is possible in politics and you can never say never. But with what is going on, do you phantom any room for another reconciliation between the governor and the godfather?
Oh, then of course, the politics is dynamic, and most aspect of things in our human endeavor is dynamic. There are chances because, you see, what is common in politics is interest. There's no permanent friend, there's no permanent enemy. What is permanent is interest. So if it comes to sharing interest, if Fubara and his godfather, Wike, because of course Wike brought him to power. After God, Wike is the next person that helped God to ensure that Fubara came to power. So yes, of course, Wike, Fubara and Wike could begin to share another common interest. And when that common interest meets in peace, of course, they will chart a new way of peace, discussions and so on. People will come into it, and then somebody will come down to the other. Just like, the dog, while they are playing, when the dogs are playing, the smaller one will fall, the bigger one will also fall, as if the smaller one was able to push it down. So that is the fighting, or the playing of a dog. So politics is a game. They are all playing, and what is common with them is interest. Now, Wike is interested in Tinubu's second term. Fubara is also interested in Tinubu's second term. Tinubu has achieved that both parties are on the same phase. They're on the same page. They are all working for him. It has happened even in some states in the southeast here, where those who were opposed and the others, they were all brought together to work for the same person, one of the governors of the southeast here. I do not want to call names. So I think Tinubu is home and dry with the situation in Rivers State. If he calls for another peace, he will always say, gentlemen, come down. We are all working for the same goal. The goal is for us to be in governance, and that is primary. If you say anything outside the primary goal is now personal to anybody that tries to propagate it. That is, if Wike is insisting that somebody else must be governor of, no, it's not about that. It's about president. It's about president. It's not about him. It's not about what he wants. It's about what Mr. President wants. And that is why he recruited him to work for him.
All right. Before finally, just the final one on this very issue, and I want to ask, where does this leave the people of Rivers State?
Well, the people of Rivers State have always had their affinity and emotions towards Fubara more. There are people, loyalists to Wike, they're all still there. He went to Ateke Tom's house. He was, massaging his ego. He was talking that he's a good man, and so on and so forth. That they have the relationship between them have been, very cordial and all that. He's been going about talking to some people are loyal to him, some people are loyal to Fubara, and all those loyal to Wike and Fubara are all going to be for the president.
All right, very well said. Over to Deborah.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now moving over to our next paper coming from the Punch newspaper, and the headline there says, power drain, electricity subsidy nears 2 trillion naira yearly. And the cost of electricity subsidies in Nigeria is fast approaching 2 trillion naira annually, raising serious concerns about sustainability. Experts warn that the huge spending is putting pressure on government finances and limiting investment in power infrastructure. The report highlights inefficiencies in the power sector with calls for targeted subsidies, improved metering, and reforms that protect the poor while reducing waste.
All right, Mr. Ress, I will quickly run to you of this very one, because a lot of Nigerians for sure do not believe that government, they are benefiting anything from government in terms of subsidy, since the fuel subsidy was removed. And whenever you speak about subsidizing power in Nigeria, the generality of Nigeria, look at you somehow. They always take you a pinch of salt. But we have been told this morning that this subsidy from government, is beginning to weigh down the coffers of government, and they are looking at this from a different angle this time around. And eventually, if government, takes a different step as regards the subsidizing of metering to improve power around the nation, then we may see total darkness. But Mr. Ress, I don't know if you have a different opinion from the generality of Nigerians who don't feel that the power they enjoy, is actually really subsidized in terms of how the impact on the pocket of the generality of Nigerians.
I am going to be emotional in this. I'm sorry, I have to be. Where is the power? What are they subsidizing? Of course, the regulatory agency, power regulatory agency, increased tariffs and all that. And the federal government is also funding the metering. All these things are based on how to tax the users. Metering is about how to regulate electricity and tax people and for them to pay. But the generation, is it done? What is the level? What is the quantity of electricity being generated on the whole in Nigeria? Let them tell us. Sometimes they'll begin to say 6,000 megawatts, and at the other time they say electricity has dropped to 2,000 megawatts. It's epileptic. Even right inside this television, I do not know how many hours you stay on public power supply.
If you're asking about how many hours you stay on public supply, is on the news that even Asurok is on solar.
That is exactly what I am saying. So you know how many hours you stay on public power supply. So where is the power that is being subsidized? Where is the power? Is the power generated? Is it given to the people? So what are you subsidizing? Subsidy has become one conduit pipe in this country. They said subsidy on petroleum. They have removed subsidy on petroleum and people are still crying. They said when subsidy is removed, the money will now be plunged into meaningful ventures that will create jobs for the teeming populace of this country. But it has not been so. In fact, the economic situation in Nigeria has since worsened since after the removal of our subsidy, removal of petroleum subsidy. So if government wants, they should have a rethink. When did they start subsidizing this? Is it not when they started the metering business? The old meters are no longer, worth doing with. So they had to come with a new metering, and even they changed the tariff to very whooping sums that Nigerians are crying foul. If you go to Abuja, people are, bullied. They take police and security agencies to the houses of people to know who does what on power. But the question I still continue to ask, where is the power that is being subsidized, upon which federal government pays about 2 trillion per annum? I wonder where they are doing that. If this 2 trillion per annum is given to Dangote to build a power station and generate electricity, I bet you he will build a power station that will generate over 2,000 to 3,000 megawatts in this country, and continually will be fully maintained. It will not be such that we fluctuate. It is generating 1,000 megawatts today, it is generating 2 tomorrow. It will be steady. If you give it to a private individual, that is what is solved in terms of business management. They don't know want to do these things. You see, Nigeria is the biggest economy in Africa in terms of those who manufacture generating sets, power generating equipment. And therefore, it is like a syndicate. It is like a cartel that is sabotaging power supply in Nigeria. It is like that. Because if it is not, if you think about how much money Nigerian government has plunged into power generation in this country, then you find out that such money could buy another country. It could, that is, if Nigeria is going to pay for a country and say this country will be our own, that money would have paid for it. It is so much money, it is so huge that we cannot even name it, we cannot even count it. Anybody who can count it should come out and tell us. You see, so Nigeria has wasted so much money. So I'm beginning to see, from my perspective, that there is sabotage, there is a cartel behind this to ensure that a lot of companies that are producing power generating equipment may go extinct if there is power in Nigeria.
But Mr. Reyes, do you think that if Nigeria should, ban the importation and manufacturing of generating sets in Nigeria, that in itself would cause the government and the agencies in charge of power generation in Nigeria to improve on the quality of service?
No, if it's about power generating, that is for the organization that will generate. Of course, the federal government of Nigeria have given licensing for independent power generators, and we have not seen much of that. It is just like the petroleum refining, which 40 licenses have been given, and we only have Dangote now on board, and we're expecting BUA, which might take a few years to come, and then the 38 others, where are they? So the independent power producers, where are they? They have not generated anything. I know there's one in Aba. I don't know how much it generates, but I learned the people within the area enjoying better power than people that are not there. So that is, in fact, it is disheartening that the independent power generators, it has been made for power generation to come from various angle independent bodies, yet we have not seen the power. So that is why I still point at the fact that something is wrong somewhere, which means there is sabotage somewhere. Why are these companies not coming on board to generate the needed power? Then when you talk about generating power and Nigerians are enjoying electricity, then we'll now begin to talk about the price, the tariff, the electricity tariff. But we are not even enjoying it. You don't have the light to enjoy. Then we will talk about tariff and then talk about taxation.
All right. But one thing we may not separate with the epileptic power supply and generation in Nigeria may equally be tied around the security situation in Nigeria as well.
How can you tie it around security situation? How often have you seen these terrorists blow power stations? It has not happened. So you don't begin to say the security situation, it has not affected, it has not gone to that side. The terrorism in Nigeria has gone to mowing down human lives and property. It has not gone to power generating equipment, going to dams and all that, blowing them and so on and so forth. And they have not even come to that. It is only when you begin to come out to become revolutionary in terrorism that's where you begin to blow these things that will affect the states adversely. So can we say insecurity has brought about power generation?
Well, we've seen where the pipelines that supply gas to these plants were vandalized by
vandals.
Security threats as well.
Vandals, not terrorists.
Really?
Yes, vandals. The pipelines, you see, we have had the pipeline vandals all along, even before the insurgency came into full blast in Nigeria. We had the vandals, they go through the pipes. Sometimes some of them even lay pipes and, put in their own pipes to siphon, oil, in different types of oil, PMS, and the rest of them diesel and so on. They siphon it in the forest and lay pipe to a very long distance and begin to fill in that. That is economic sabotage. These are vandals. These are people who want to make money. It's not about terrorism. Terror doesn't care about all that money making, except that most recently, the president before the National Assembly was able to categorize even cultism as terrorist.
All right, Mr. Reyes, a number of times, and like this morning, we've spoken about these challenges, the problem. Can we proffer solutions? What do we need to do to see that the situation is improved?
Okay. One, the federal government should look at those that have issued license to produce power in Nigeria. That's number one. Then they should look at the DISCOs, the power distributing agencies, look at the activities and how they are going about it. These organizations should be independently audited so that we know exactly how much they earn and how they manage those resources and what comes into government coffers as a result, so that the government will know how much money they will plunge into the power sector once more. The monies plunged into the sector has not been accounted for by anybody. It has not been accounted for by anybody. And then you want the government to put in more money into it, to budget more money. How do you begin to do that kind of thing? Is that how to do business? If the government business should be done with transparency and accountability in such a way that people will know that this is our commonwealth, this is our collective thing, and the people vested with the responsibility of its management should be transparent and accountable to us. So that is exactly what it ought to be. You cannot say we are going to put in more money. Every day you will put in money for power and the power is not forthcoming. So how do you reconcile that? So government has to go back and look at the power sector holistically and know the actual problems. If the problem is on legislation, then they have to sponsor a bill in the National Assembly. Then the legislation will come, they will chart a new course for power production in Nigeria. Sometimes, that's why I said the cartel sometimes do not even want foreigners to come in to begin to generate power in Nigeria. The moment such people tend to enter, the discussion will be stalled, and you will not hear about it. You might hear that on the newspaper, you might read on the newspaper something like this is going to happen. In no distant time, it is swept under the carpet and nobody hears about that again. So the federal government should do something. Otherwise, how do the populace make demand on the system? It's only because the government in Nigeria has some elements, the dictatorial tendencies that is in them, that stops the populace, the people, from making demand on the system. That's why most often you don't see people coming out to protest about epileptic power supply. No company, no organization does production to optimum level as a result of power supply, and the product becomes, not financially competitive. That is to say, when you produce in Nigeria and somebody goes to China or any of the Asian countries to import those things, those ones will be sold far cheaper, because what you even consume in energy, private energy that you generate, that is through power generating plants, and the diesel you pay for will make the cost of production to be high.
All right, that's quite apt. Thank you for those in-depth analysis on these issues. And regarding this issue, we'll call on the government to ensure improved meterings and reforms that will protect the poor while reducing waste. And having said that, we'll move over to Mr. Goodhope, the sports oracle.
All right, thank you very much for this morning's edition of Sports on the Sunrise. Well, we have the sports wrap on the newspaper, what we are expecting to see, and especially what happened over the week in the AFCON and what happened yesterday in the AFCON too. Algeria had to win DR Congo yesterday in a 1-0 game, where Algeria had to score at the 118th minute, almost at the neck of time. And that goal became a screamer yesterday. That goal became the goal that sealed the deal for Algeria. While yesterday, Cote d'Ivoire had to win their game 3-0. And looking at the team, Cote d'Ivoire, and what they played yesterday, it was a fantastic game, of course. Like you are seeing the scores. And Cote d'Ivoire won Burkina Faso 3-0, just like we are about to see what Nigeria nearly scored 3 goals only on their day. So Cote d'Ivoire just had to stop at 3. But today we have what we're looking at in the newspaper, because during Nigeria's match on Tuesday, on Monday, of course, there were lots of issues that came up, especially in between Osimhen and Lookman, where the NFF has come out to clear the doubt, to clear the air, that there's nothing as such happening in the camp, that these guys are cool, they are friends, and nothing is happening. And also we're preparing that Nigeria will play their match against Algeria tomorrow, because looking at what is happening, we are going into the semis. If we win Algeria tomorrow, we're going into the semis, and we're going to have what we call an AFCON that will test our strength already. Of course, there are 8 people who have qualified for the quarterfinals. 8 teams who have qualified for the quarterfinals. You can see Senegal, Mali, Morocco, Cameroon, Egypt, Nigeria, Algeria, and Cote d'Ivoire. I wanted to ask Mr. Ress, who do you think Nigeria if you give Nigeria right now, that would be a good opponent for Nigeria to win among these 8 teams, among the 7 teams, of course?
If you give Nigeria Cameroon, if you give Nigeria, of course we are playing Algeria.
Yes.
Any other, if you give Nigeria, it will be a difficult match between Nigeria, Egypt, or Nigeria, Morocco, and Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire. But any other team you give Nigeria, I believe Nigeria will do better. And of course, tomorrow, I say by tomorrow, we're playing Algeria.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have chances of advancing to the semi-finals.
Well, Algeria is kind of unpredictable because of the way, the style of play, the kind of way they play their game and all that. So I feel like we're still going to play well. But I'm not sure about Nigeria really meaning Algeria. But it is football, it's a game. So anything can just come up. But I believe that as a country, being a good citizen, we could just have something around that, and Nigeria would find their feet.
Of course, I told you that sometime you asked me a question about Nigeria and their performance. I said they improve with every match. If you remember the last match, they were banging in goals like nobody. And of course, you can see that they have scored more goals than any other team in the tournament.
Yes, they have.
So we think it's a high-scoring side. So the chances are there that they will win Algeria. You are the sports oracle, but this time maybe I'll be a small oracle to tell you. I'll be a smaller oracle to tell you that Nigeria will be good enough. You know, they will show their prowess in African football. After all, they are 3-time champions of the AFCON. So they are progressing. We are not an underdog.
We are not, of course. I wanted to push it to Ms. Tucci about tomorrow's game. What do you think about Nigeria? I know
Anyways, so far Nigeria has been doing well. I did watch the match against this where we scored 4 goals, and I did tell you that yes, there is a good synergy amongst your front, your strikers, you know, because of the midfield. And yes, the strikers were good, but you have a midfield, you know, that I credit to the coach for being able to bring in the guys that we had in the midfield, you know, playing together. We've not had a coach that, you know, play these players in that manner at the midfield. You had a very viable midfield that could give a thorough pass that was defense splitting passes leading to the goals that you saw. So for me, kudos to the coach. But speaking to the match tomorrow, like my position has always been about Nigeria, you know, tomorrow you may be excited, you know, believing that you will win the match tomorrow, and then they fall your hand, you know, in Nigerian parlance. That's the Nigerian team. While we are doing well and we are no underdogs, we've won this tournament, you know, more than twice. One thing is obvious for me: the fact that we are doing well doesn't wash away the lack of good structure, footballing structure, when it regards to Nigerian football. You understand that equally impacts our performance all along. We are not going to the World Cup. So be that as it may, whatever our position in AFCON is, it don't take away the fact that we won't be in the World Cup. And it speaks to lack of depth, bad structure, bad organization when you talk about Nigerian football.
All right, talking about that, I will tell you that this, I said it's one of the shows that one of the sports shows that I took. And I said that Nigeria, especially this our coach, he did a great job in the midfield, because he had to summon a lot of minstrels, people who can play, like you talked about, people who can play defense splitting passes. Now, talking about Alex Iwobi, Dele, the guy who went from Sunshine Stars to Europe, and he was called back home to play for Nigeria. And also not bringing the concern that there's no home-based players who we have, who are playing for, who are representing Nigeria in the AFCON. It raises a concern. But do you think that we are so lucky not to have or we are lucky not to have home-based players, do you think bringing in a home-based player would have been a problem, or would have affected the team's morale?
Not having home-based players in that team speaks to the decay I speak about always, like the bad structure that I talk about. That's what it is. You don't have men who will take over from these young ones. You don't keep going abroad to scout for players always. It has to be a marriage of home-based and foreign-based players for your squad to have depth.
Well, South Africa that has all home-based players, they are not in the competition again.
See, let's not over celebrate the luck that we're enjoying in this AFCON as well.
I'm surprised you're calling whatever we are playing as luck.
We have invested a lot.
See,
in this
what have you invested? You're not going to the World Cup. You're not going to the World Cup. It speaks volume to your ranking in footballing world.
Yes, anybody could not go to war. Sometimes some countries do not go to war.
I have not seen how many powerful footballing nations did make it to the World Cup.
How are you in the world?
This is the only thing that unites Nigeria.
Have you
Football-wise,
beyond second round in the World Cup?
But we should qualify. We should qualify. This is one thing that Nigeria, does very well when it comes to football.
When did they start qualifying?
When did we not start qualifying? Mr. Rest, I'm surprised. Mr. Rest, I'm surprised that you talk like this. This is a country that has carried the Olympics. Speaking to football, this is a superpower when it comes to the AFCON that we speak of. So when you talk about the quality of stars that Nigeria has provided over the years, we should be beyond this, where we are always cap in hand, praying to God, permutating for qualification. So that we are doing well in this AFCON that is not yet over. You may be up for surprises as well. I give kudos to the coach and the players, but beyond that, we shouldn't over celebrate these things, because, like you did mention, the structure is not there. You are speaking to the faulty foundation that may give way any time.
Well, that's how
I appreciate your submission.
Yeah,
there's a fundamental problem in Nigerian football. Sports generally, not just football.
But let's not just drag this further, because I would have said that the women are doing well too. So basically, we could say that it's for the men. It's from the men's POV in sports, and that's why we call it a wrap in today's sports show here on Sunrise.
All right. Before we move over to the issue of Nigeria stock market updates, there is an issue that we'll have to discuss this morning. And speaking to the unwholesome activities of house agents in Nigeria. In Nigeria, particularly the urban areas, speaking of Lagos, Abuja, and even Enugu, the term house agents often carries a negative connotation due to the activities of house agents. The negative connotation for lack of professional regulation. While legitimate realtors exist, the market is saturated with street agents who engage in practices that exploit desperate house hunters. So this morning, let's bring this to the fore. I don't know if any of us have experienced this. Mr. Reyes, you've been around and you would agree to these issues. For example, in Enugu here, you talk about, because of the unwholesome activities of these agents, the prices of housing has skyrocketed, where people now pay up to 600,000 for a room apartment in Enugu.
Agency in Nigeria has not been effectively regulated. There's a legislation, or there's supposed to be a legislation for agency in Nigeria. Of course, there is existing legislation, but I do think that these legislation are, out of date. They are not in consonance with the present realities. But at the same time, government has to look at that, very well. You go to Enugu, go to Lagos, go to everywhere. The street agents have become a menace. Sometimes they even extort money from those who are looking for places to live. They extort money. They even take away their money and run away and all that. So because it is not effectively regulated, so I expect that the regulation should be done by government in such a way that there'll be decorum in most of the things you do about agency, so that when people are looking for places, of course, the kind of money they take from those who are interested in having houses, whoever is patronizing them is so outrageous. It's so outrageous. Even in the coal city here, the house agents could take much more than you expect. And then they even ask you about, the lawyer will take about 2 times that, the house agent will take, and so on and so forth. And this will, before you pay for a flat, a newly built building in Enugu, you must keep like 1.8 million just for 1 year. Between 1.5 to 1.8 million. Because the house on its own might be about 800 to 900 to 1 million. Then the agency might be between 300,000. The lawyers will be about 300,000 or 400,000. So you might pay 700 or 800,000 in just the agent, the lawyers fee and the agency. So it is so whooping and scary that people, that's why people now go to live in slums, places that are uninhabitable. If you come right inside the city here, you can see the urban slums. You can see places where you have mud walls, and people, about 3-4 persons, are living in places and makeshift, bedrooms and toilets and so on. So it is disheartening. But I believe that it is one of the things that government had to look at and be able to correct in such a way. Beyond that, housing deficits in Nigeria, according to the census, are quite high. We need housing. It is because the houses are not enough for the population. That's why people are doing all that share practice. If the houses are there empty and people build houses and they're empty, they will find out that they are not making the money. After they have invested, they will come down their prices and the agency and all that.
All right. Before I let others into this conversation, let me give context. Here you spoke quite well about this very issue, but I want to get it home a little bit. The issues, yes, there is house deficit in Nigeria, but let's take a human angle to it. And I want to, like Mr. Goodhope, that would always say that he's always speaking for the grassroots. Now speak for the grassroots. And when you did talk about looking for those who have to keep 1.something million, I want to speak for those who are looking for a room apartment where you may just have to, all you need is to be able to raise at least 200,000 to get a decent room apartment. Asking you to keep 600,000, and when you look at what the money is meant for, usually upon investigation I discovered that most of these houses actually go for less than 200 or 250,000 even, and then you have to pay the excesses to house agents who now ask you, first of all, you fill form. After filling the form, you have to pay what they call inspection fee, and either you like the house or not, that inspection fee is gone. Then you now love this house, then the charges now begin. You now pay what you call, you fill form, you've paid the inspection fee, you now fill another form where you pay for the agent fee, you pay lawyer agreement fee. Then you see that all the money being paid now is enough to pay for a 3-year rent of the house you want to move in. And beyond that, there's equally another issue to it. Due to the unregulated nature of the environment, speaking to house agents, where some of them scam even these house hunters. I don't know. I was thinking that maybe given time, we may bring people to come and talk about their experiences on this issue. And why I speak this way is that I want to look at it from the human perspective, because these are human beings involved, and we are all humans. We can't wait for government to do everything for us. Now, human beings taking advantage of people who are in need, people who are in want, people who need shelter, who need roof over their head, and then we'll see that as an opportunity, an avenue to cash out. You know, to speak the Nigerian language, we'll take it as an avenue to cash out. Mr. Goodhope, Deborah, I don't know if you're quite agitated about this issue as I am.
I am very, very agitated concerning this issue, because with the way the economy is going like this now, and I can see you don't even have enough to afford a good home, a good room to stay with. Like Mr. Rex earlier said, that because of this, people are forced to move into places that are not habitable. Now you find out that, and mostly this, especially the students, now let's say the student, for example, they have to pay a certain huge amount just to acquire this house, which is double the price of, double the rent. Now you have to pay the agent fee, and most times you find out that you're not even the only one who has paid for that apartment. Now these agents, what they actually, most of them actually do, they collect money from two different persons, and then you can sort yourself out, and you can be roommates in a, let's say, in a self-contained apartment. And now going forward, you could see that the pictures that were displayed earlier, you could see the prices ranging from 250,000 to just for a house where the rent is 300. You would see where the agent fee is even more. Now the landlord of the house is just collecting, should I say, like 300.
Sorry to cut in, but shouldn't we say that even landlords are complicit in this? You know, we speak about house agents. Don't you think that house owners are equally complicit in this?
Some house owners have equally turned to agents.
Yeah.
So they will still take the rent and take the agency money. So it is there. There's nothing people don't do for money. That is Nigerian factor. People do a whole lot of things for the purpose of making money. Corruption has become systemic. If there's no way you can cheat the other person, people are not satisfied with what they're doing on the planet Earth, especially in Nigeria. So we have seen, don't you know about people who manufacture the drugs at the backyard, at their backyards in Indonesia? So people put Gary into capsules and so on. Yes, of course, people have been caught doing that. So that is the way, you know, it is done in Nigeria. Most people. That does not take away the fact that there are decent, good people in Nigeria, of course, but they are small. The greater percentage of the population have been destroyed by the belief that you must get money. That is why, you know, mentorship and role modeling is no longer there. What the younger persons see in role models as those who make money. That's why you see the Yahoo boys coming out with very gorgeous cars, and the younger ones are thinking about how to start running those cars from a young, and they get involved in all manner of crime. So it is not only just in housing. So in housing we have a problem in Nigeria, and we, like he said, we must I do not subscribe to the government will not do. What are you going to do? Are you going to march on the streets and begin to beat people who extort money? No. The only way to do that is set up things that we checkmate. That is why I said we have very weak institutions. If we have strong institutions, it will checkmate the excesses of individuals in whatever thing they are doing. The excesses will be checked. There are things to checkmate what you are doing. If you get involved in unholy act, of course the long arm of the law will catch up with you. So if we have house agents, agency has to do with 10.5%. Is a standard almost world over. So,
but what we're looking at here now is beyond 10.5%.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
But Mr. Reyes, beyond looking at the government, you know, with policies, you know, what can we do as a people? Because these are human beings involved. There's no longer sympathy in our society who is all about taking advantage. What can we do?
Okay, you know, there's something about Nigerians. But something about Nigerians is such that when you even have an advantage to make a demand on the system, Nigerians don't do it. They will tell you, are we going to go to court? That's what I'm saying. You find out that if you are driving and you have an altercation with a law enforcement agent on the road, you either dispense with money, which is corruption, than going with him and go to court, where you may likely be discharged for not doing anything, and it will be there. But because you say, that's going to waste time. Sometimes I was in a vehicle, they say, the other person, the driver, give him money and let's go get out of here. Give him money, let's get out of here. I say, why should he give him money? For what? What is the giving of money for? And so on. So we don't make demand on the system. When you have such problems, you go to court. When you have such problems, you demand that the right thing should be done. A man in Abuja, police officers came into his house and started reeling out charges against him and took him and locked him up and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, they extorted 10 million from him. It has not been long. And today, he came back, asked a lawyer, briefed his lawyer. The lawyer wrote to the Inspector General of Police. And the matter is in process. They have returned 4 million out of the, and the rest of the money has been difficult to return because they have all shared and eaten that one. They only returned 4 million. So, but you must make a demand on this. At least those people will go to jail. The police officers, they will lose their job as police officers, and so on and so forth. So that you will know the next other police officer will now look at what his former police officer did and that landed that person in jail and will not want to do it. That is the way it should be done. Nobody is going to fight the agents on the street and fight the landlords. Landlords, if you talk to them anyhow, they tell you to leave. Their house is their house and nothing but that. So what we do is implementation of the tenancy agency laws. Implementation. There are laws that guides most of these activities that are not effectively implemented in Nigeria. So right. We expect that government will help us implement it.
All right.
Well, if I would say how it's happening, an agency fee in Nigeria is a lot, but I just want to put it at that because even right in the real estate, in the building of houses, many people will tell you that this house, how they found this house for you, you don't know what they went through before they found this house. Like we're talking that even landlords are now part of their accomplice. So for me, I will talk about this and I will give the solution in my own aspect, because the whole thing is there is nothing you can do about it a lot, because these agents, they too, they are doing their work. You don't know how much they have put into coming to that particular find a particular house. But let me tell you why some of that fee is high. One agent is not, you don't have one agent for one house. Most of these houses they are finding is no one person that finds the house. I hope you know that 2 agents, 3 agents.
Is there a justification for the prices to be high?
Okay, see what happens. When you talk about justification for the prices to be high, they themselves are not looking at it from this side. They are just looking at it that, okay, when this house is settled, I'm going to take 5 million. You're going to take 5 million. You're going to take 5 million. I've seen a situation where they made up to 10 million naira and it's not one person that shares it. Just like selling.
So how do we check this situation? Because people are suffering due to this situation.
Well,
there are a lot of individuals who don't have roof over their head because they can't afford to pay for such exorbitant fees hiked by house agents.
Well, I think how we can get this done is to bring in, like Mr. Rez has said, the government should form a policy. We should have a policy for agents or people who are aspiring to go into real estate in Nigeria, because these things are important. I mean, it should be something that has been formed, something that has been, set up, that government, if anybody is going into real estate or going into you should register that you are an agent, and government should checkmate it. That's all.
All right, quite apt. From what Mr. Reza said already, I think there's need for more government action as this unwholesome practice of house agents is concerned. Then one other area that we should look into is perhaps beginning to unionize these agents and then license them as well, so that we'll be able to differentiate touts from licensed realtors, so that we'll begin to, it will be easier for government to regulate these practices, and where people are being scammed, you're dealing with the right registered agent. In that way, it will be easy to even prosecute such a person. We will continue to, discuss, dissect, and probe on these issues, because it is a whole lot of menace on our society. People are really suffering, and like you rightly pointed out, it has made people to, move away from the urban centers and move into slums. People live in mud houses, in two strays, because of the situation at hand. We'll continue to probe them, but as time is running out and we are receiving signals, this is the Nigerian stock market update for January 2nd, 2006. The Nigerian Stock Exchange continued with its historic bullish run, with the all-share index closing at a record 159,951.0.8 points. The market has been on a 15-day winning streak, driven by the January effect and portfolio rebalancing by institutional investors. Notably, the stock market capitalization now stands at approximately 102.28 trillion. The shares traded by volume is 745.20 million shares, and the value traded is 19.40 billion naira. By the total number of deals is 53,632. And then the top 5 leaders as of yesterday were led by Mayor PLC, which closed its book yesterday at 14 naira 30 kobo, making a +10 positive adjustment. They are followed by Jaiz Bank PLC, which closed trading yesterday at 5 naira 28 kobo, equally making a +10 positive adjustments. They are followed on the list equally by ABC Transport, which closed its book yesterday by 4 naira 96 kobo, making a +9.98% adjustment. With they are equally on the list is Austin Labs and Company Limited, which equally closed its books yesterday at 5 naira 64 kobo, making a +9.94% positive adjustment. And for the losers, they are led by Aluminium Extraction Company, which is being traded as Alex, closing their book yesterday at 21 naira 70 kobo, making a -9.96 negative adjustment. The second on this list is Lean Africa. Lean Africa closes books yesterday at 5 naira 95 kobo, making a -9.16 negative adjustment. The third on the list is Owando PLC, which closed trading yesterday at 14 naira 80 kobo, making a -7.69% negative adjustment. So they are followed by United Bank for Africa, which is traded as UBA, closing the market yesterday at 43 naira, making a negative -6.22% negative adjustments. Then the final on the list of these are the fifth of the list of losers yesterday is Access Holdings, which yesterday closed trading at 23 naira 50 kobo, making a -6.00% negative adjustments, then you know that the financial stocks, you know, saw heavy activities. They were led by leakage assurance and sterling bank, leading in terms of volumes traded. You know that investors are currently taking positions ahead of the full year earnings. But do remember that before you make any investment in the financial sector, do well to consult a certified financial analyst or broker due to the volatility of the market. And as we speak, the market is open and trading has commenced for the day. Deborah.
All right, thank you very much for that. And here is where we draw the curtain today on Sunrise on ANEKE TV. It's always a pleasure having you here every morning. And please do not forget to follow us across our social media platforms, across Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, all at ANEKE TV, or call our phone number 070-304-37110. I am Deborah Wakaba.
All right, and Mr. Res Arum, thank you very much for this in-depth analysis on topical issues.
Thank you for having me, and I'll always be on ANEKE TV, same time, every day.
All right, and Mr. Goodhope, the man of many parts, the sports oracle who sometimes refuses to give you the prediction, but you come to know what the prediction is after the match is played also. It's always a pleasure to have you on Sunrise, Mr. Goodhope.
Thank you very much.
All right, and I'm Uche Osai. Remember, you're not here to be average. Be unique. Keep watching ANEKE TV. It will come your way same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.